everybody. Got a little project we're working on, but Shop Dog wanted to stay outside. Beautiful late summer evening. I don't know if you can hear it off in the distance, but there'll be a big storm over there. It's making lots of racket. I think it's going to miss us by a good bit, so hope so. Otherwise, it'll be a noisy video. Let me go inside and show you what we're going to work on. Hey, we got a neat little thing that came in the mail the other day. One of these Benchdogs quad MFT hinge systems. I've been struggling with how to cut large panels. I have the MFT top here, and with that I have some special Benchdogs that allow me to go into the track, and then they kind of fit in with the holes. You can adjust them. They're really tough to kind of move around, and in between cuts to lift them up. It just doesn't work fantastic. And I was talking with Ralph and Heather over at Benchdogs, and they suggested this is probably, the better way to go. But in my situation, we have a bit of a challenge in that right along this is my table saw. And I had to kind of figure out, well, it won't work, because if we go over here, all I have is a little bit of a space here I could play with. But the problem is, as you flip these things up, they get in the way. Next thing I was looking at was, well, how do they fit on there? I have some holes already drilled, fantastic. And they have some special jig that you can buy. It's pretty expensive. And it's going to be a one-time thing. And that jig basically fits in these holes, and you can push it out to the side. Now, Benchdogs recommends the holes for these things to be 35 millimeters from the very edge of the table. Issue with that is I can't just extend this out, because literally it's going to be right on the edge here. It's not going to hold very good, and you want accuracy, and I don't want, this is just MDF, it's going to split off. These are 50 millimeters from that edge right there. That poses a problem. Now, if you haven't seen these things before, basically what we have is their quad dog system. So basically it's a bunch of cylinders with some O-rings in between. And when you tighten this nut here, it squishes down. The O-rings kind of squish out into the sides of the holes. Bada bing, bada boom. It holds it in place. They have some really nice machined aluminum, nicely anodized as well. Some angle brackets here, all screwed together, all really nicely done. They also have a really nice, is this stainless? Yeah, I think this is stainless. Steel here. I should check. Let me grab my, well, whatever it is, it's not magnetic, so it could be aluminum. Anyways, so that's all bent, all nice and straight. We have an adjustment here for this to move up and down depending on the thickness of the material you're cutting. Now that, well, I'm going to order them, I'm going to pay for them. I'm just hoping I can figure out how to get that to work. And as soon as I got it, put it in place, thought, oh crap, what's going on? So if you look down here, right here we have, this is that 35 millimeters to this spot, this little green chunker right here. And that's a bit of a problem, because it doesn't sit totally down. You can see we have a gap there. One of the rings doesn't hold. It's kind of wobbly in there. So what do? Scratch my head. I thought, well, I still have, I got a 3D printer, I got a few things, and I still have the ruler from the PARF guide that I used to do the whole set of holes. Hopefully they're all, perfectly 90 degrees to each other. But when I looked at it, if I take the center of one hole and I go to the next one, again, I'm right at the edge. It just isn't going to work. Well, could I put one in between? I could maybe put two here, just down a little bit further. Okay, that sounds great, but how do I get that perfectly square to all the holes I've already drilled? you know, there's a will where there, you know, in a way, you know, we have these things we can offset. Again, these are 96 millimeters, so 48 millimeters is halfway in between. I could have, you know, 3D printed some little spacers and got everything figured out here and used this as a line, and that would have worked perfectly acceptably. But came up with a different idea. I'm going to show you here. I already tried it out, and we got this one. Again, it's just about 50 millimeters. We got it perfectly flush, and I'm going to show you how to do this. It's super easy. All we're going to do, use the old DeWalt plunge router. I have 2 depth stops done. They are for just sinking the green part down, and then the little nuts on the back, on the bottom, and it's going to work out fantastic. So I would say, although it says 35, if your holes are 50 millimeters and you don't mind doing a little bit of plastic surgery on your MFT top, let's get that fit so we can work on that right there. Give me a minute, I got to get a few things set up. Okay, the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to, with a pencil, just carefully mark where that green part sort of ends. I'm going to come over here. I hope you all guys like my nice fluorescent orange there. Then we're going to sight down along here really carefully and just kind of mark where that finishes up. Now this edging, hard edging that I put on here is about 2 inches thick, so it really helps to protect the edge of that MDF. I want that anyways, so I'm going to come across here. We're going to make a little mark. Good, and that's going to give me sort of the rough dimensions of what I need to mill this out. We just pull this off, and we grab a Sharpie, and all we're going to do is we're going to just a Sharpie here and here, just really nice and dark. This is all going to come out anyways, and we're going to do right about there, just so I have a better reference on things. Now the next thing we need to do is basically router this out right up to that line and all the way across. How do we do that? I came up with a really high-tech jig. This. Basically, if we look at the router, we have our bit here, we have a curved surface here, and if I put this right against the edge of the bit, again, there's no battery here yet, don't worry guys, this lines up perfectly right on the edge there. So what's going to happen is, as long as I use this as an offset and then clamp something here, remove this, when I put the router down and follow that, it's going to go right perfectly along that line. I can sight down through the clear insert here. It's going to suck all the dust up, and I can just follow that along with this nice curved edge absolutely perfectly. So I just need to find a good piece of wood I can use to clamp here as a nice straight edge. Let me go find something. I'll go check the scrap pile and see what we got. I know I got scraps around here to, well, yeah, tons of scraps. Don't worry about it. Give me a minute. Okay, so I got it all set up here. I have these Vico sort of MFT clamps. I love them. I was looking at something. Dennis from Hooked on Wood had featured them. I thought, well, I'll get a couple. I'll get a set. And I don't know, I had a coupon for Banggood, and I thought, well, what the heck. And all of a sudden I got them, and they're just so useful I bought a second set. So I've got like 8 of them. And there's been a couple projects where I've used all 8. I find they're really good for this kind of stuff. I can't say anything bad about them. They're just a good product. So what's going to happen is that this is backed up here, so no matter how hard I push, it's not going to move. And here's our spacer. All we do is we grab our router and make sure we're good to go there. Yep, that looks pretty good. I'm right on that spot that I want to be, all the way across. So I'm going to put the battery in on the router and get it set up, and we're going to cut this out. Alrighty, let's give her a shot. Okay, so that gives us our first little pocket here. And basically that's the hardest part, is just getting that done. There's two things to consider. Number one is, I know I came in and went sort of, what do you call it, a climb cut. And I'm comfortable doing that. It's a small router, small bit. I'm used to it. I'm comfortable with it. You really, if you're not used to using routers, you probably don't want to do that a whole lot. But just to get a sense of the middle, come across, and then I used a conventional cut going out and just kind of clean it up as I went along. So nice flat bottom right there. So we're going to undo our clamps, move this piece of wood out of here, and then see how good our end part works. So everything's done, everything's out of the way. Let's test this out. So that's fitting much better, but there's another problem. The way this base is held on to the angle bracket, we have these, there we go, these lock nuts. Now there's enough space between the edge and this one to clear, but these ones stick down a little bit. So somehow we need to mark where those are going to go. We could do measuring, or we could do fancy stuff like that, but where did it go? I'm going to go over here. There we go. All right, we got the old rubber mallet. We're just going to give it a little bit of a tap there. Let's see what happened. Don't know if you can see it, but right here is a mark. Right there is a mark. And right about there is a mark. So pretty straightforward there. We're going to come around this way. I'll move you around here. We're going to get in there. Now there's one thing I really, really like about this DeWalt router with the plunge base. I have a video to it. I'll probably update that and show it to you. Is that you can set these little stops. And all I have to do now is, hope it doesn't springy on me. There we go, I got the base on the thing. There we go. Lift it up a little bit. We're going to move it down one notch. And then we springy the base back down. So now this engages with the next quick spot. We lock it in place, and then this bit will now be lower than the other one, enough to allow us to notch in for those little nuts. So this is going to be a little bit of fine finessing, entirely freehand. Let's see what we can do without boogering things up. So router firm on the table, both hands on it. We're going to turn it on, and we're going to just try and find those black marks. Let's kind of get lined up first. Okay, right there. Right there. Okay. And we're going to turn the, I'm going to turn that off. Oh, darn it. Oh, there it is. Okay, we're going to turn the vacuum on and then the router. Okay, so we have a couple little spots dented in here, and they're not perfect, but hey, good enough for hand shoes and or horseshoes and hand grenades, at least in the butcher shop. Again, this is why I got the name the Wood Butcher. So we just take that. Oh, there we are, totally flush along the whole side. Yeah, can't even fit a fingernail in there. So now this sits 100% flush. And let me get the, I gotta find the doodly thing to tighten her down. Okay, found the Allen wrench. We're just gonna secure that down. We're gonna give it a couple twists there, a couple twists there, and we're golden. So now we're totally solid on that end of things. I'm gonna get one of my big rails. I'm going to see how close it comes down and how it locks into here, because this is the key. The hinge on that end moves it up and down, but the one slot right there is going to rest on this pin and keep that rail from moving. Okay, I just finished setting this all up. The rail's in place with the quad hinge and the pin. Did a little bit of tweaking just to make sure it was as close to 100% as accurate. And so I got my Lee Valley feeler gauges out here. We got a, this one is a, there we go, a 1.5 thou, and we have a 2 thou feeler gauge. Super thin, super thin. So I've set it up where I just have two of the standard Benchdogs here, and my little 8-inch Lee Valley precision machinist square. Kind of cleaned it all off. There we go. Make sure everything's clean. And we're just gonna bring it right up against that rail, just like that. And we're just gonna touch. That's all we're gonna do. I'm gonna grab the 2 thou feeler gauge. These things are so delicate. Oh boy. Get that away. Okay. So if we come up to this one over here, it stops right just before the halfway point on the first one. And if we go here, it's stopping. Let me see if I can get it a little bit closer here. No, it doesn't want to go. So that's really good. It's less than 2,000 over 6 inches. Now this ruler is good for 1 thou over an inch accuracy. So theoretically I'm more accurate than the dang ruler. So let's get out the 1.5 thou. Shop Dog is here just kind of supervising me, make sure I'm not doing anything goofy. Mrs. Wood Butcher is out fixing up some weeds. Okay. So here we go. We got 1.5 thou. Okay. So the 1.5 thou, yeah, it's sneaking past. Just sneaking past that one. How about this one? No, it doesn't want to go. So I got the Benchdog quad hinge down to an accuracy square of 1.5 thou over 6 inches. Now, in my OCD brain, yep, 6 inches. In my OCD brain, that's not enough. It's got to be perfect. But I think, so let's figure this out. If I'm doing a 2-foot piece, which would be 4 times, if I'm out 1.5 times 4, that's 6 thou. Let's see what 6 thou looks like. Do I have a 6 thou? 8. There we go. We got a 6 thou. So I don't know if you can tell how thin that is, but if over 2 feet I'm off by that amount, I think for, especially for the wood butcher shop, that's fantastic. So really happy with how this works out. Let me figure out my actual cross-cut abilities here. I think it's going to be pretty good. So I'm going to tear all this down. I'll show you a little bit more about what how it works out, and we'll go from there. Okay, so to wind up, even though I've cleaned up the whole bench here, this quad hinge system seems to be pretty snazzy. I'm really liking it so far. Accuracy seems good. It fit really well. Again, if you have a bench where your holes aren't going to line up properly, all you got to do is just router in for that base component and you're good to go. Look at that, nice and flush. If we lift the rail right up, so in realism, again, that's a big old 1900 millimeter rail, so it's going to be a bit awkward. I don't know how to manage it completely, but we'll see. If we're looking at realistically from here, which is where stock would be maximally, that would work. But when I'm looking at it, I'm really going from about here, mainly because the Benchdogs fence or any dogs I'm going to use along that row are really going to start at this point. So if I go from there all the way down to here, I'm going to have up to about that area. So let's sort that out. I'm going to move the tape right to the edge there. So we're getting just around 40 inches. That's pretty decent crosscut capacity. If I kind of sunk them down, actually I guess I could theoretically, you know, sink the entire thing down to just flush with the tabletop. If I did that, I would be looking at, let me line up here. That's not going to gain me a whole much. Just about 44 inches. Well, actually, if I went out to the far end, I could get almost a full 48 inches. Wow. Okay. Benchdogs, quad MFT hinge system. If you got the space and you can sort it out and get it all set up, I think it's looking pretty fantastic for cross-cutting large pieces, or I guess you could even rip cut some pieces. It's just going to work out really quite well. I don't think you can ever replace a big old table saw, you know, for rip cutting and other stuff. I got the space. It works great. But for this, fantastic. I think they've done a great job, well designed. I'd love to see them be able to do it where you could have it above the table, but that's a lot of engineering. I looked at trying to take mine apart. It's not going to work. Hey, go out, make a mess, have some fun, and support some fantastic businesses. Made in the UK, I'm in Canada. Shipping was like less than a week and pretty reasonable. Had to talk to Heather a little bit just to get her to see if they could not have DHL. DHL was pretty expensive for me and they were able to accommodate. I just had one item, small box. I think they're fantastic. Have a great day, everybody. Go make a mess. Have some fun. I don't know if you guys have these black crickets around there, but these things are carnivorous. They're going after all the grasshoppers and small children, and I don't know. cats and dogs. Gotta watch out for these things. I have hundreds out by the shop here. Thankfully none in the shop yet, but dang it, I'm gonna have to wear some steel-toed boots or maybe put on a bulletproof vest to prevent these things from eating me.